What if I told you that everything you need to radically transform your financial life is hidden inside just one Bible verse? Yes, just one. It may sound hard to believe, but it's true. Most people struggle financially because they focus only on what they can get. They look outward, hoping to receive more, but they miss a spiritual key that has already changed thousands of lives. And here's what's so interesting. This principle is not just about money. It's about transforming the way you see your resources, your purpose, and the blessings already in your hands. And here comes the most surprising part. Most people have read this verse, but very few actually understand it. This isn't just a motivational quote. It's a revelation, a glimpse into how biblical prosperity really works. Today, I'm going to teach you how to apply this verse in a spiritual and practical way. And I promise, by the end of this video, you'll see how this one insight can change everything for you. But before we dive in, I want to ask you for something. Hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to reach 15,000 subscribers before the end of October. And with your help, we can share these life-changing truths with even more people. Now, take a moment to eliminate every distraction. Close other tabs, put your phone on silent, and focus completely. What you're about to learn might be the very thing you've been searching for all this time. And stay with me until the end, because the final point may shock you. It might be the missing piece that unlocks the flow of blessings in your life. Long ago, a young king made a request. He didn't ask for money or fame. He asked for wisdom. That young king was Solomon. He understood something profound. Wisdom is the foundation for everything else. And because God was moved by the humility of his request, he didn't just give Solomon wisdom. He gave him riches, honor, and prosperity beyond imagination. Solomon's story teaches us this truth. True prosperity begins with a generous heart and a desire to give. Just as Solomon blessed an entire nation, God expects us to use what we have to be a blessing to others. And in doing so, He opens the doors to receive even more. Acts 20 verse 35 says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." It's not just a nice phrase. It's a deep spiritual law. This verse contains a powerful promise. Generosity leads to abundance, because no one can give unless they have already received. And the more we give, the more we are positioned to receive. Generosity activates the biblical cycle of prosperity. Some people live like dams, storing and holding on to every blessing. But others live like rivers, letting blessings flow through them so that others can be refreshed. They let blessings pass through them to reach others. But here's a crucial detail. A dam eventually stops receiving. Why? Because there's no more space left to store. So think about this carefully. Are we living like flowing rivers or like stagnant dams in a world where so many are struggling just to find financial stability? This verse reveals something powerful. It's not only about the physical act of giving. It's about spiritual positioning. The Bible teaches that God's financial promises are directly connected to our willingness to give and to walk in righteousness. This is why many never experience biblical abundance. They are waiting to receive something, without first releasing what they already hold. Think about the stories of people who understood this truth. Entrepreneurs who started with very little. Even when they had almost nothing left, their faith-filled generosity opened the door to miracles. Now ask yourself, how many times has God placed something in your hands, and you've held on to it out of fear? How many times have you missed the chance to be a channel of blessing for someone else? We all face daily challenges, doubts, anxieties, and especially fear when money is tight. But here's the truth. God doesn't call us to give because He needs our money. He calls us to give because He wants to change our hearts. It's an invitation to trust, just like Solomon did. Solomon fully believed that God was his limitless source of provision. So as you reflect on this, remember, the keys to abundance are not found in what you hold on to, but in what you release with faith. True prosperity begins when we recognize that everything we have comes from God. And when we give, we align ourselves with His purpose to be a blessing in the lives of others. If you need prayer for your finances, or for anything else you're facing, leave your request in the comments. We're here to stand with you in faith, believing that God can transform your life. Now picture this: a powerful river flowing freely, bringing life wherever it goes. Now picture a dam, holding everything in, letting nothing out. Which one do you believe fulfills a greater purpose? This is the principle of giving to receive. Just like a river is never cut off, because it allows the water to move, our lives stay full when we learn to release and share. But when we act like dams, accumulating and hoarding, we eventually block the blessing. Proverbs 11 verse 25 says it clearly: a generous person will prosper, and whoever refreshes others will themselves be refreshed. Will themselves be refreshed. This isn't just spiritual poetry. It's a truth that has the power to transform lives. Those who choose to give not only see their own needs met, but they also experience a peace and a deep satisfaction that money alone can never provide. It's a principle that has stood the test of time, proven again and again across generations, and it works in everyday life. You can see it all around you. Companies that share resources and reinvest in meaningful causes tend to grow and thrive. Individuals who give their time, their ideas, or their finances often receive unexpected opportunities and build lasting, meaningful connections. That's no coincidence. Giving connects us to God's purpose for our lives. It opens doors we could never open on our own. Think about the story of Andrew Carnegie, a man who built one of the greatest fortunes of his time, and then dedicated his life to giving it away. He created libraries, schools, and life-changing projects that impacted entire communities. Carnegie understood something powerful: that wealth without purpose is empty. So he turned his fortune into a river of blessings, one that continues to flow even after his death. But many of us still live with a scarcity mindset. We hold tightly to the little we have, afraid it will never be enough. But this kind of thinking is a trap. Just like a dam, we block the flow of abundance. In contrast, when we choose to give, we declare with our actions that we trust in a God who has no limits to his resources or his generosity. Giving doesn't always have to be about money. Sometimes it's your time, your talents, or simply being willing to listen. But here's the secret. The more you give, the more your capacity to receive expands. It's a virtuous cycle designed by God himself. When we give, we become part of his divine work, bringing hope and light to those who need it most. Every time you choose to give, you break the chains of fear and spiritual poverty. You open your life to the endless flow of God's abundance. So the question is, are we ready to stop being dams and become rivers instead? If you're breathing today, you've already received something from God. The very fact that you're alive is proof of his generosity. But how often do we focus on what we lack instead of being thankful for what we already have? Here's the truth. Gratitude is the foundation of prosperity. Recognizing what we've received frees us from anxiety and prepares our hearts to give with joy. The Bible says it clearly in Luke 6, verse 38. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. When we give with a thankful heart, something powerful begins to happen. Something powerful happens. We stop focusing on our limitations and start seeing possibilities. Those who give don't give just because they have a lot. They give because they understand that what they have is not truly theirs. It's a gift from God. And this shift in perspective changes everything. We move from being just receivers to becoming co-workers with God in his mission to bless the world. If you've received anything, you now have the privilege of being part of God's work, the work of blessing others. A powerful example of this truth is the story of John D. Rockefeller. As a young worker, he began tithing from the little money he earned. He didn't wait to become rich. He gave in faith, believing that what he had, no matter how small, could be multiplied if he used it to help others. And the result? Not only did his generosity impact many lives, it also led him to become one of the wealthiest men of his time. Rockefeller understood that by giving, he was becoming a river, not a dam. But this raises a question many of us wrestle with. How can I give when I feel like I don't have enough? The answer is simple, but it's not always easy. Everything begins with gratitude. Giving is not about how much you have. It's about how much you trust. When we recognize all we've already received, we realize there is always something we can share, even in our hardest moments. God doesn't ask us to give because he needs what we have. He asks us to give because we need to trust him more. Each act of generosity is a declaration of faith. It breaks chains of fear and connects us to his unlimited supply. Gratitude doesn't just change how we think. It opens the door to greater blessings. It's a principle that seems to defy logic. The more you give, the more you receive. But this isn't only about money. It includes your time, your encouragement, and every loving act you can offer. Everything you sow will eventually grow. So next time you feel like you have nothing to offer, Remember this: if you're still breathing, you've already received. And if you've received, you can give. It's a divine cycle, designed to fill you with peace and purpose. Have you ever felt stuck? Like blessings just won't flow into your life? Often, the cause is something we don't see. It's the habit of holding back, living like a dam, storing everything out of fear. May seem logical, but over time, it leads to stagnation and lack. A dam that refuses to release water eventually stops receiving it. But a river that keeps flowing never runs dry. And this mindset of withholding is deeply connected to fear. We believe that if we let go of the little we have, we may never have enough again. But here's the truth: God cannot fill hands that are closed. When we hold on tightly, we limit our ability to receive more. The Bible teaches powerful principles about finances and generosity. For example, Proverbs 11 verse 24 says, "There is one who scatters, yet increases more. And there is one who withholds more than is right, but it leads to poverty." Living like a dam doesn't just affect us materially, it affects us spiritually. We disconnect from our purpose as channels of blessing. Many people work hard, save money, and invest wisely, but still feel empty. Why? Because they're focused on accumulation, not on contribution. God's promises about finances were never meant to stop with us. They were meant to flow through us. History gives us great examples of this. Think about the early days of Amazon, when Jeff Bezos made a bold decision to reinvest in customer experience instead of maximizing early profits. At the time, it looked risky, but that mindset of giving value first turned Amazon into one of the most successful companies in the world. Bezos understood that flow, not hoarding, is the true key to growth. Still, many of us fall into a scarcity mindset. We keep what little we have, thinking we're being responsible. But here's the secret: holding back what God gave you isn't wisdom. It's fear disguised as caution. And fear shuts the door to abundance. Instead of asking, "How much can I keep?" ask yourself, "What can I give today to make room for more?" Living like a river doesn't mean being reckless. It means trusting that God is your source. It means giving what you can, even when it seems small. Because a river flows, not from itself, but from the greater source it's connected to. And so do we. When we recognize that everything we have comes from Him, we stop fearing lack. Every time you give, something shifts inside of you. You're declaring that your trust isn't in your bank account, but in a God who can do much with very little. So today, stop living like a dam. Start flowing like a river. And watch how God turns your life into a channel of unstoppable blessing. Now that we understand the importance of living like a flowing river, a natural question comes up: how can I give when I'm going through a season of lack? It's easy to be generous when everything is going well, but difficult times, that's where our faith is truly tested. It's in those very moments when giving becomes a radical act of trust in God. It's a bold declaration that our provision doesn't depend on our circumstances, but on God's unshakable faithfulness. The Bible gives us a powerful example in the story of the widow of Zarephath. In 1 Kings 17, during a devastating drought, this woman had only a handful of flour and a little oil left. It was all she had to prepare a final meal for herself and her son before they died of hunger. But then the prophet Elijah asked for something unthinkable: to make a small loaf of bread for him first. The widow could have held tightly to the little she had, but instead, she chose to trust, and her act of faith unlocked a miracle. The oil and flour never ran out. Do you feel like that widow today? Looking at your resources and wondering if it will ever be enough? You're not alone. We've all been there, counting every cent, fighting off fear, wondering if we'll make it to tomorrow. But here's the truth: the little in your hand, when given in faith, becomes much in the hands of God. Giving in hard times is not losing. It's planting a seed in the soil of divine provision. There's something deeply transformative about choosing to give when you feel like you have nothing. It's a holy rebellion against fear and anxiety. When you give, you not only challenge your own doubts, you send a loud message to heaven: I trust you, God. He is not limited by your bank account, your debt, or your current struggles. Now, this doesn't mean you should be reckless or give beyond your ability. True generosity is always guided by wisdom. But even in your darkest moments, there is always something you can give. A few minutes of your time, your skills, a word of encouragement. Even the smallest act of generosity is a seed of hope, both in your life and in someone else's. Think about how one kind word can change someone's entire day, how one helping hand can open unexpected doors. Giving doesn't just bless the one who receives, it transforms the one who gives. It makes us more open, more connected to others, and most importantly, more aligned with God's heart. If you're facing a storm right now, financially, emotionally, or spiritually, remember, giving isn't about how much you have. It's about how much you trust. God is searching for people willing to let go, not so He can take from them, but so He can fill them with something greater. Your generosity, even in times of struggle, is a key that opens doors you never thought possible. In a world that glorifies competition and accumulation, in a world where competition and self-preservation seem to be the norm, the principle of "it is better to give than to receive" may sound outdated, even irrational. But here's the truth: some of the greatest successes today are built on this exact principle. Living with generosity doesn't just bring spiritual rewards, it also brings practical and tangible benefits. When you begin to apply this mindset in your daily life, you unlock a continuous flow of opportunities, resources, and meaningful connections. Let's take a look at smart investing. Many of the world's top entrepreneurs don't just keep their early profits, they reinvest them. This not only multiplies their wealth, but also builds long-term impact. Applying this principle to your personal finances means more than just saving for yourself. It means investing in causes, projects, or people that create mutual growth. The Bible calls this principle sowing and reaping, and it's just as powerful today as it was thousands of years ago. Passive income is a modern example that reflects this idea. Think about how well-managed investments in real estate or businesses produce steady income over time. This allows people not only to meet their needs, but to have margin to be generous. By sharing what they earn, they multiply their influence and often see unexpected returns. It's a direct reflection of God's financial promises, where generosity opens doors that effort alone cannot. But generosity isn't limited to money. Successful companies today, like Patagonia, understand that creating value goes far beyond profit. They invest a significant portion of their earnings into environmental causes, earning customer loyalty, and building a reputation that lasts for generations. This proves that divine justice and lasting prosperity go hand in hand when we use our resources to serve a greater purpose. In your everyday life, this principle can take many forms. It could be helping a coworker with a difficult task, or taking time to mentor someone in need. Generosity creates an ecosystem where everyone can thrive. Because when you give, you build relationships, and relationships build trust. And those connections often lead to opportunities you never imagined. The modern world often tells us to focus only on ourselves, to protect what's ours. But true biblical prosperity isn't just about what you earn. It's about how you use what you have to bless others. It's like a farmer who, instead of eating all his grain, plants it, believing in the harvest to come. A farmer doesn't keep all his harvest. He chooses to plant a portion. That seed may seem like a loss at first, but over time, it yields abundant fruit. When we live by this principle, something powerful shifts inside us. Generosity frees us from the fear of loss and connects us to an infinite source, God Himself. He promises in His Word that biblical financial abundance is the outcome of a life aligned with His principles. Giving is the key that unlocks resources, ideas, and opportunities. Generosity doesn't just change your life, it affects everyone around you. Think about this. Every act of generosity, however small, is a seed planted in someone else's life. Even more, generosity inspires others. Generous people can mobilize others, create a movement that outlasts the moment. It becomes a legacy of light and hope. That is leadership in its purest form, leading by example, not just by words. A generous leader doesn't hold back. They share their knowledge, resources, and time. Look at Solomon. He used his wealth and wisdom to build the temple, a sacred place connecting God and His people. Solomon understood that his prosperity was not just for himself, it was to serve a whole generation. His legacy endures not because he amassed wealth, but because he used it with purpose. In today's world, Charles Chuck Feeney is a modern example, a billionaire who gave away nearly all his fortune in his lifetime. He invested in education, health, and humanitarian causes. Though he could have lived in luxury, he chose to lead with generosity. Feeney left a tangible impact and inspired other billionaires to commit to philanthropic giving. This proves that generosity not only transforms individual lives, but entire communities. But what does this have to do with you? More than you might think. You don't have to be rich to be a generous leader. Each time you choose to give, you're showing others a different path. When you share your resources, your ideas, your words of encouragement, you influence those around you. You demonstrate that there's a greater purpose in everything we do. Generous leadership has a multiplying effect. When you give, it inspires others to do the same. It's like lighting a candle. Your light doesn't go out, but the room gets brighter. This principle is just as powerful in personal relationships, work, and community life. Each act of generosity has the potential to. We were not created just to receive blessings. God has called us to become channels of blessing for others. When we embrace this calling, we don't just experience His abundance. We become His instruments to transform lives. This is the true essence of biblical prosperity. It's not about how much you have, but how much impact you create with what you've been given. Just imagine what would happen if more people lived by this principle. If each of us chose to give more than we receive, we could transform families, revive communities, and even shift entire nations. It's an invitation to dream bigger, to lead with a generous heart, and to allow God to use us for His divine purpose. Type in the comments, "I'm a channel of blessing to others." Declare this truth with faith, believing that God will use you to impact lives. And as you give, He will multiply what you have in your hands to fulfill His purpose. Generosity is far greater than financial giving. Yes, giving money can change lives, but we often overlook the power of other acts of generosity. Our time, our skills, our words. These may be invisible to the world, but they have eternal impact. Giving is not just an act of obedience. It's a moment of transformation, both for the one who gives and the one who receives. Think of the story of Barnabas, known in Acts 4 verses 36 to 37 as the son of encouragement. He didn't just sell land to support early believers. He gave his life to mentor, uplift, and walk beside others. Like the Apostle Paul, Barnabas showed us that generosity goes beyond money. It's investing your time and your heart in people. In daily life, giving beyond finances can look like small, powerful gestures. Listening to someone who needs to be heard, teaching a skill you've mastered, or using your talents to help solve a problem. These simple acts build deep relationships, plant hope, and demonstrate God's love in action. Generosity also transforms us within. It breaks the mindset of lack and connects us to a higher purpose. When you choose to invest in others, you're participating in God's work. You're saying, "I won't just be a receiver. I will be part of the divine plan to bless this world." That act of faith opens doors and creates a never-ending cycle of abundance. The emotional and spiritual impact of giving is enormous, and studies even show people who dedicate themselves to helping others often experience more joy, fulfillment, and a deeper sense of purpose in life. Why is that? Because giving reflects the very heart of our Creator. God designed the world so that blessings would flow, not stay stagnant. And when we choose to give, we align ourselves with His divine design. We become a reflection of His image to those around us. But generosity isn't just about money. It's also about creating a legacy. When you invest in people, your impact multiplies beyond what you can see. It's not just about what you achieve, but about the lives you touch and the people you inspire to walk the same path. That is the core of generous leadership, leaving behind an impact that outlives us. So if you've ever felt like you have nothing to give, remember this: your time, your words, and your willingness to listen are powerful seeds. God can use whatever you have in your hands, no matter how small, to change someone's life. The true power of giving doesn't come from the amount, but from the heart behind it. Now that we've explored this powerful biblical verse and the life-changing principles around it, it's time to reflect. How can you apply this truth in your daily life? It's not enough to simply know it. We must act on it. Each teaching, each example from the Bible, is an invitation to live in a way that honors God and transforms how we see the resources we have. Remember, it is more blessed to give than to receive. That's not just a spiritual quote. It's a divine invitation to become rivers of blessing to those around us. Think about this. How can you start being more generous today? Not just with your finances, but with your time, your encouragement, and your talents? What small steps can you take right now to align your life with this eternal principle? Great men of faith like Solomon and modern-day examples like Chuck Feeney show us that true abundance comes from using what we have to bless others. This principle remains just as powerful today as it was in biblical times. When you apply these truths, you invite God to pour out His abundance over you, knowing it will flow through you to reach others. And if you still feel unsure where to begin, I invite you to take this message as a personal challenge. Take a step of faith. Trust that God will provide, and watch how He moves in your life. It doesn't matter how small your action may be. What matters is the heart behind it. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to check out the next one. What the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, doesn't tell you, and how the Bible completes the message. In that video, you'll learn how God's Word takes powerful modern principles to a whole new level. And finally, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who needs this message. May God bless your life, your plans, and your finances. And may He fill you with His wisdom, His peace, and His provision.